No, I'm Not a Human features 10 distinct endings, each revealing fragments of a twisted reality where humanity faces extinction from mysterious visitors. This game doesn't hold your hand. Every choice matters, and the consequences are brutal. From peaceful transcendence to violent crucifixion, each ending paints a different picture of survival during an apocalyptic solar event. The afterlife ending, the most peaceful conclusion, comes through a bizarre sequence of events that feels almost dreamlike. After allowing a Persian cat inside your home, players discover a hidden hatch concealed beneath a rug that the cat mysteriously pulls away. This leads to underground tunnels containing a half-dug path, eventually revealing a man who has sent his friend down a mysterious hole. Descending yourself brings you face to face with a paranormal entity simply known as Death. This floating being speaks in riddles and acts as some kind of cosmic judge, somehow possessing intimate knowledge about the protagonist despite never having met them before. The entity understands your deepest desires and immediately transports you to an isolated grassland with a single lonely house. Here something profound happens. The protagonist begins transcending human emotions entirely, forgetting fear, anxiety, and that crushing loneliness that defined his existence. Time becomes meaningless as he exists in eternal calm and peace. The ambiguity is completely intentional. Did the protagonist actually die falling into that hole? Is this genuinely the afterlife, or simply a psychological break from reality? For someone deeply lonely, eternal isolation combined with inner peace might actually be paradise. It's haunting precisely because we can't determine whether this is salvation or damnation. The Tall Man ending. The super visitor represents the game's most immediate threat. This impossibly tall, pale figure either tricks his way inside or simply breaks down the door when he realizes you're alone. Throughout conversations, he claims to be sent by others like himself, specifically targeting the protagonist as someone chosen. He demonstrates unsettling knowledge about your character, mentioning loneliness and decision-making struggles. His offer to join him is really an offer of death. Once inside, the animation shows him snapping the protagonist's neck instantly. The outro reveals the house's fate. Abandoned after the owner's disappearance, it slowly decays into nothing, becoming a distant memory. This ending emphasizes isolation's danger. The super visitor can breach defenses when you're alone, suggesting these entities exploit vulnerability. His inability to enter when multiple people are present hints at supernatural limitations requiring permission or specific conditions. The vigilante ending. One visitor carries a machine gun and forces you to prove your humanity by revealing body parts. This character wears necklaces adorned with severed fingers and teeth from his victims. He calls them visitors, but he's really a mass murderer who pillages towns and burns survivors alive. If you show any body part resembling visitor characteristics, he immediately aims to kill you. The protagonist fires back in self-defense, killing the vigilante. Overcome with emotion, the protagonist beats the corpse, enraged by all the innocent deaths. He then vows to hunt down other armed vigilantes, becoming the very thing he just killed. This ending explores how crisis transforms ordinary people into monsters. The vigilante believed he was protecting humanity, yet became more dangerous than the threats he hunted. The protagonist's transformation mirrors this cycle. Violence begets violence, and survival instincts override morality. The best survival ending, successfully identifying all humans while eliminating or avoiding visitors, leads to what seems like survival. However, even this good ending is miserable. The game presents two information sources: television broadcasts praising FEMA as protectors and underground radio stations exposing FEMA's brutal methods. The radio reveals FEMA operates death squads in quarantine zones, blaming vigilantes for their own massacres. As FEMA gains power, they silence independent broadcasters, topple the government claiming visitor infiltration, and establish total information control. The protagonist and survivors hide in the basement for 2 months with canned food. When FEMA announces the solar crisis is ending, the protagonist feels disappointed rather than relieved. His apocalypse gave his lonely life meaning and purpose. Now facing potential decades of ordinary existence, he questions whether surviving matters at all. This ending suggests that sometimes the real horror isn't death, but returning to a meaningless life. The Trapped with Visitors. Ending similar to the survival ending, but here you've accidentally let visitors into your shelter. The protagonist retreats to the cellar with both humans and visitors, unable to distinguish between them. Paranoia consumes him as he senses cold, calculating entities waiting for the right moment to strike. The fear paralyzes his judgment and clouds his mind. One day he wakes surrounded by visitors who tear into his flesh with their bare hands. The assault is deliberately slow, making him feel every agonizing moment. As he dies, his mind retreats to the vision of that lonely house from the afterlife ending. This suggests a connection between that peaceful place and death itself. Perhaps the entity called Death genuinely shows everyone their personal afterlife. This ending is particularly cruel because the protagonist's fear and inability to act sealed his fate. Had he remained vigilant or taken action, survival might have been possible. The Mushroom Land ending. An elderly man discussing mushrooms gives you a page from his Book of Smiles with instructions for reaching a mysterious land. Consuming the mushroom transports the protagonist to a surreal realm where he completely loses touch with reality. This ending serves as comic relief, offering no substantial story progression. It's intentionally absurd, breaking the game's serious tone. The protagonist essentially gets high and escapes into hallucination rather than confronting reality. While other endings explore deep themes about death, fear, and humanity, this one simply asks, what if you just checked out completely? It's the equivalent of giving up, but through chemical escape rather than death. The developers likely included this as an Easter egg or palate cleanser between darker endings. It acknowledges that when faced with impossible circumstances, some people would rather alter their consciousness than face brutal truths about their situation. The killer punch prophet ending. Losing your mind to paranoia and killing multiple people triggers a visit from the prophet. The protagonist becomes convinced that anyone sheltered could be a visitor. Media reports about visitor violence fuel his paranoid delusions, driving him to take preemptive action against perceived threats. Eventually he turns the gun on himself, preferring death on his own terms to the fear consuming him. Survivors rush in and disarm him, but to his broken mind they appear as monsters. They beat him severely and throw him outside as the sun rises. He feels the heat and wishes he'd succeeded in ending it himself. The sequence ends ambiguously. Did the sun burn him? Did visitors or vigilantes find him? Did he somehow survive? This ending examines how fear destroys rationality. The protagonist becomes what he feared most, a violent threat to innocent people, proving that psychological horror can be deadlier than physical danger. The cult ending. A cult leader requests shelter for his group and you watch them set up stakes and bonfires. They're preparing for mass suicide, believing death on their own terms is better than succumbing to fear and uncertainty. The leader invites the protagonist to join their death cult. Accepting leads to a ceremony where each member is commemorated with candles and gravestones, receiving dignified deaths compared to being killed by visitors, burned by the sun, or executed by FEMA. The leader promises they'll ascend to greatness and be remembered. A surreal sequence shows a black hole attempting to open before closing, with a voice stating that human minds cannot comprehend cosmic mysteries. This ending explores how existential dread drives people to extreme belief systems. The cult provides community, purpose, and control over fate. Whether their beliefs about ascension are real or delusion is deliberately unclear, but their deaths are undeniably more peaceful than violent alternatives. The fatal child ending. A mysterious woman who calls everyone baby offers comfort in exchange for shelter. She discusses the protagonist's abusive father, touching on unresolved trauma and complicated grief. During the night, bizarre paranormal events occur and the woman appears to give birth. Finding a baby around the house unlocks this ending. A pale baby appears in the air while three figures in a trance try to pull it in different directions. Unable to withstand the surreal horror, the protagonist shoots blindly. When light returns, angelic figures with a feminine leader appear, declaring the protagonist their prophet. By shooting the child, he supposedly saved them from incomprehensible horrors. They carry him away while someone holds nails, clearly. Preparing for crucifixion, the protagonist will be sacrificed as their messiah. This ending is deliberately confusing, mirroring the protagonist's bewilderment. He doesn't understand how his death absolves their sins, but he's powerless to resist becoming their unwilling savior. The FEMA ending. FEMA agents in hazmat suits repeatedly visit, displaying ruthless brutality. They execute runners, take people for experiments, imprison survivors in quarantine zones, and kill them when resources run low. They manipulate media coverage and eventually overthrow the government to control the country through violence and propaganda. By siding with FEMA, killing at least one person daily to prove ruthlessness, you receive an offer to join them. The protagonist quickly learns FEMA recruits aggressively because agents die as fast as their victims. New recruits lose all individuality, becoming cogs in a merciless machine. The protagonist never learns what happened to his house or the people inside. His goggles reflect destruction and flames, symbolizing his lost identity. He's now just a tool for FEMA's dystopian vision. This ending serves as the game's darkest social commentary, showing how authoritarian systems consume individuals and perpetuate cycles of violence under the guise of security and order. The game deliberately leaves everything ambiguous. Are visitors real supernatural entities from underground or psychological manifestations of collective fear? The solar crisis definitely happened, causing massive death and environmental destruction, but whether the paranormal elements are literal or symbolic remains unclear. What we know for certain is that Crisis reveals humanity's worst impulses: violence, paranoia, authoritarianism, and cultish desperation. Yet it also shows our capacity for compassion, as some characters genuinely try to help others.